Hello, folks. Welcome to the show. Another episode. And today we are going to talk to a college president who spent 26 years in the same institution. Yeah, I know. Boring, right? Right? No. Not at all. Not. First gen student. Okay. So that's what's pretty interesting. Now she leads and maintains just the Aspen Presidential Award 9 consecutive years. So that's not by accident. Well, not juggling, not managing, but leading 4 campuses, folks, in the heartland of Minnesota. Dr. Carrie Brimhall, president of Minnesota State Community and Technical College, M State. Dr. Brimhall, thanks for joining us today.
Oh, it's my pleasure to be here.
So, tell me, what's the average capture rate today for college president? Is it 5 years? Less than
I
5 years?
think 5 is pushing the limit. We don't always I don't watch those numbers, but I think 5 was a couple years ago, and I'm guessing it's going down from there.
Yeah, yeah. So I would say 3 to 5 years. What I see from my experience is I get called on to another campus working with the same leader that I worked with on a different campus. It's just this juggling of chairs, but you stayed put for nearly 3 decades, boss, and became president of your own alma mater. I don't know if that's just either loyalty is career silliness or you've cracked something about institutional leadership that I think the climbers and some of the dreamers are just missing today. Thoughts?
Yeah. Yeah, it's a really interesting journey to be on. I say often I'd go back to my first job in a heartbeat, which was recruiting students and talking to their families about the value of higher education. I loved that job. And in fact, I've loved every job that I've had at the college. And I never really aspired to move up, and I never said, "Oh, that's my next move and my next move." But I think loyalty is a big piece of my story. Every time that a leadership role came up and I was tapped and asked to step up and take on something new, I always thought, if not me, then who? And who's going to care about this institution and our students more than I do? And I worried that we would get folks in roles that
Mm,
might see things differently. And that
right.
climber piece is real. And I want to support everybody who has aspirations to climb. But at the end of the day, folks who live in the region probably know a little bit about what's best in the region too. And so I think right now in our leadership team, we have the perfect balance of those of us who have been around and live here, and those of us who have moved into the region. And I think that's the perfect balance in a leadership structure, is having both, is having folks who understand the culture and understand the norms of the region, and then others that challenge that, and then a healthy environment where you can discuss all of those things.
That's interesting. I hadn't really thought about just the cultural norms of the communities that you live in, where stand power is a real thing. I mean, you do live in a place that's workforce centered, that's highly agricultural. Being loyal and showing up is a real thing. And when you have just that level of disruption all the time within your systems, that probably does not resonate well within that cultural norm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it takes those of us who are from the region to bring along folks who might not know how to enter those conversations. Even in the 4 communities we serve, it's completely different how we show up and what is expected of us, and even how people contact us. The work that we're doing right now in higher ed requires a deep level of trust and authentic and vulnerable conversations, because everyone who's looking for these pivots that they need to make to be sustainable, not only in higher ed, but in our workforce region, with businesses closing and opening and AI and all the things that are changing, you really have to sit down and roll your sleeves up and be pretty gritty. And that requires trust. And I think that's why it's a nice balance to have folks who are from the region and those who challenge that notion of the region at the table at the same time, because we get invited to conversations because of
Mm.
our relationship with people. And those conversations do require a level of authenticity that you don't get if you haven't been in the rink with folks for a long time.
Yeah, which means you have to really go deep in order to go far or fast or whatever your intentions are. I do work across campuses. Oftentimes I'm pulled in because there's just a lack what they described as a lack of trust on campus, right? So you talk about I mean just how that plays out because trust is such a broad term, right? Well, trust in what? Communication? Trust in what? Clarity? Trust in what? Loyalty?
Right.
Competence. I mean, all of those things come into play, and I think all of them are. augmented into that word called trust. You can't be absent in any of those areas. You got to keep showing up and doing your homework to be crazy competent and to show loyalty, right?
Yeah.
And to show that level of integrity that I'm here for the right reasons. And I'm see that mission over there. That's what I get up in the morning to work for every single day.
Yeah. Yeah, we all can work anywhere, and I think people can tell pretty quickly if you're choosing the work and you're choosing it for the right reasons, and for students in our case and communities, and that kind of is just a theme I would say throughout any organization. If you are climbing, I think folks can sometimes tell that, and not that that's not appreciated and valued, but it comes alongside that. I want to know you're here long enough to see this transformation, this project, this movement through. And that starts with relationships.
It does. And people can smell self-preservation and can smell you building a resume and all of those things. And I do. You are standard deviations beyond in terms of just loyalty of where I typically see leaders across campuses. But let's talk about that coveted Aspen Prize,
Hmm.
right? Not just one, two, three times, nine years in a row. 9 years in a row. That's not accidental. They're looking at real life competencies that you're fulfilling. Um, is it on one campus or all 4 campuses? How is that measured by Aspen?
Yeah, it's all four campuses. So we are one institution, accredited institution. And so the data rolls up into one set of
Okay.
data that we're compared about. We're the only one of two institutions in Minnesota that's been named every time Aspen has done the list. But it's interesting to tie back to our first conversation in Aspen. When I did my dissertation research, I used the Aspen Prize list and interviewed presidents and at Aspen institutions about and I used the AACC leadership competencies and kind of did a comparison. And one of the things I found that ties back to what we just talked about is longevity of the leader
Mm,
is a key factor in institutional excellence. So many of the presidents that I interviewed had been there for a very long time and had that stability in leadership team that kind of calms folks. And I would say they don't think that I don't pretend to think everybody likes my style, my decisions, my approach, any of that. But they do know what to expect.
yeah.
And that I think calms folks to know that we're, a leadership team. Like they can do their good work. They can focus on students. They don't have to worry about what leaders are doing. They don't have to worry about how we're going to address all of the things that higher ed is facing. They can look at the student in front of them and see them for who they are,
Mm.
help them know that they belong, and then help them realize their dreams. That kind of stability and organization is what leads to excellence. And that so it's an interesting tie because that's how I did my dissertation research, and that was one of my takeaways is it takes a long time to build a culture
Yeah.
where folks can focus on what they should be doing because they don't have to be challenging leadership all the time.
And you think about the level of disruption that's happening across most campuses today where people show up and they don't know what to expect. And that what does that create? I mean, just from a wellness lens, it puts all the bad stuff, bad chemicals into our blood, which has us working more from fear than innovation and has us, isolating and creating silos and all those things that get in the way of students having their best experiences on campus.
Mhm.
So I think you're onto something, Doc.
Yeah, well, and I don't do this alone. Every year I've been here, I've had my HR and finance person, the same people as well. And so the vice president of HR and the vice president of finance have both been here at least as long as I have, if not longer. And so when I think of a core, and that's why I'm saying there's a core and then there's other disruptors. And you don't want to get you don't want to get boring. You don't want to be boring. So you do have to have that disruption factor and elevate folks and voices that are different than your own. But I think from a, show up and teach, show up and serve standpoint, leadership stability does help folks feel like they can focus on why they signed up for this work in the first place.
So true. So true. Your chancellor, when you were appointed, um, said that multi-campus leaders, which you are a multi-campus leader, they must be enterprise thinkers, right? Because they navigate just distinct communities daily across, their borders of their campuses. So make the case for that.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing. I start to compartmentalize. So every once in a while, someone will throw me off because there'll be a leader in one community showing up in another community, and I'm in my sort of Moorhead mode. When I'm in Moorhead, I know who my folks are, I know who my team is, and our partnerships and all those things. And then somebody from Fergus Falls will be up in a Moorhead meeting, and I'll wait a minute, no, this is
Curveball.
disrupting my disruption. So it is. I think it really takes taking a step back and not assuming you know anything about what the community needs and listening all the time, because those communities, the four that we serve, from Wadena, which is probably our most stable campus, and it's in one of our most rural communities.
Right.
The way that they care about that campus is so different than the sort of speed with which we move in Moorhead. Everything is changing all the time up there, and you got every different partner and people and other colleges, and so it really is. Luckily I have an hour drive to each one, and so I really think that I spend a lot of time. I'm always authentic, always who I am, and also knowing that the communities need different things from me each day that I'm there. And then the beauty of that is trying to roll that all up into a bigger picture that is M State and the regional impact, and then using the strengths of each campus to build on one another. That's probably been the longest journey we've had in merger. It takes a while for folks to understand that Wadena being strong makes Moorhead strong, and vice versa. That each campus owning who it is and tying to its region makes the brand of M State even more viable for them.
That's complex. I would imagine it's hard to even explain how that works unless you've actually lived it.
Yeah.
How do you lead through that without first leading through it, right? To give
Hmm.
a keynote on how to lead a multi-campus district that has distinct community values and just different tempos across the community, that has to be learned. It probably cannot be you get taught on the job,
Yeah,
right?
that, and then I think being a parent helps with that. You
Mm,
have we have three children, and all from ages 16 to 26, and they grew up in the same house with the same parents with the same rules and all those things, but yet they all need something a little bit different from me each day. And I
yeah,
think that that's a good lesson too. So I was kind of actively raising teenagers at the same time I was actively trying to bring the college together. Dr. Ken Peters, one of the first president of M State, appointed me to a college-wide role right away. So for 22 years now, I've been working in all the communities long before I was a president. So when I showed up as president, I didn't wasn't the first time I was meeting business leaders. It wasn't the first time I was showing up at Rotary. I had been there as a leader of the institution for 20 years before becoming the president. So it was we could just kind of carry on. New role, and I had to get used to the way people take what I say now in this role
right,
differently than
right.
when I was another role within the institution. But I was lucky to have had experience within the communities long before I became the president.
So farm girl from Minnesota, okay, now college president. How do you leverage that still to this day? You gotta put your work boots on, okay? Gotta make sure you're dressed for the elements. I mean, just that common sense, objective ways to go about the work, right? Without avoiding the work,
Yeah.
which is a skill set. I often say, the further educated we are, the better excuses we can make for not doing the work.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree with you completely. And I don't ever I tell students I can bring myself back to the way I grew up really quickly. And part of that is my parents and the way that they show up in the world every day. Still to this day, they're the busiest people I know, and they're both retired. They
Mm,
come up and they get a schedule, and they're cutting wood and they're doing all the things. And so I know who I am at my core, and I know that all of the things and the hard work they put into since they got together in the 8th grade and got married. I know the hard work they put into creating our community. And I don't think I live one day without going back to the appreciation for that and the understanding that that's where most of our students are at. They're just trying to do the work to get
yeah,
ahead. My parents went to college beyond high school, so they started in, I mean, we were really poor for a really long time before they would work their way up to a level of wage sustainability for our family to be a little bit more comfortable and not as worried as we are or we were when I was younger about how those bills were going to get paid and food was going to be on the
mm.
table. So I don't think you forget that. I think it creates an appreciation for all levels of work within our organization and our communities, and just that drive to know that that isn't sustainable. People need to get skills to get beyond that because the level of poverty and living kind of below the means right now is just too stressful for families. So it's a great place to kind of merge how I
Yeah.
grew up and my passion for higher ed into that day to day, but I don't take it for granted.
It is a benefit, growing up without, as a poor kid going to the other line to get lunch tickets as a kid myself, knowing how much of a privilege it is to be working within organizations that are serving the best good of others as other. I mean, it truly is. It truly is a privilege when you know where you came from.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't, and it's interesting because the older you get, the more you realize you never really ask questions about being poor. I just recently asked my mom, "How poor were we?" Because everyone was poor that we knew, and so you didn't really know any different. Everybody you grew up with didn't have much either, and so my mom just said, "Well, there was one time when I wanted to buy those jelly sandals and they were $1, and I didn't know how we were gonna make it work." And I'm like, "Oh, that poor." And yet we were happy as can be, and we knew we were loved. And I think that that foundation is something that I try to carry with me and stay grounded in every day.
One more just, on the personal side, you know what it feels like not to belong, kind of as a first gen student popping on campus and going, I feel like I'm square here," and how does that impact the decisions that you make today? I mean, you're largely working with policy and budgets and program changes. How is that lens still alive and reflective to your decision making practices today?
Yeah, whenever I talk to students, I always mention that that's how I showed up at the institution and that's how I felt. And it's interesting what that opens for conversations. Students, as soon as students hear my story, then they think they should tell me things about that they're
So
experiencing.
natural. Yes.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, okay, you're not just a college president. You're someone who might understand I'm struggling right now. And here's why. And so I still get the benefit every time I talk to students to be brought back to that feeling and to not lose sight of the reason why we create policy and who we're excluding every time we do that. Just recently, I had a parent reach out to me and say, my son's coming to college in the fall and he wants to know, do people use backpacks at college? And I thought it was July. I mean, it was like 6 weeks before school even started, and I thought, "Oh my gosh, don't ever forget this. Don't ever forget that at the end of the day, we've got him admitted, he's got his financial aid situated, he knows his classes, but it's still about belonging. It's still about
How
identity."
terrifying it must have
I
been for that
know,
mother to just pick up that phone and make that call to
I
say, "This is
know.
gonna sound so silly."
Mhm. But he won't ask it, so he needs to know, and luckily it was a friend of mine, and I've told that story to our staff. It's like we can line everything up beautifully, and at the end of the day, it's still about, will I feel like I fit in?
Yeah.
Will I feel like I'm standing out? Will I feel different than everybody else? And so it's easy to come back to because I'm reminded once I open that door for students, they share a lot with me about belonging and if they're feeling it or not, and we just kind of keep plugging away and doing the
Mm.
best work we can.
Yeah, I don't think we ever get to graduate from that, just that foundational need either. I mean, adult to adults, we all just need campuses that are warm and inviting, and if you're gone, "Hey, where's Carrie today?"
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
Isn't
I'm
that
worried about her. Yeah.
Yeah, loving
Yeah.
communities is what it's all about. Viktor Frankl, I'm just fallen in love with his work that just talks about, you want a happy life? Find meaningful work that you do until you can't do it anymore, right? There's no such thing as retirement. It's just meaningful work. And that sounds like your parents
Mhm. Mhm.
within a loving community. So when your parents aren't showing up, people are like, "Hey, where's Bob and Kelly?"
Right. Right. Yeah.
And the third piece is reclaim suffering because we all come from places where, man, we got the slats kicked out from underneath us. All of us have a story that either we share openly or we've tucked away and nobody gets to hear about it. But where we reclaim that suffering, that's what the world needs more than anything is worthy work, loving communities, and reclaim suffering. I can't promote that enough to a mission of well-being for our entire planet. Yeah,
Yeah. That's really nice.
yeah. Okay, lightning round time.
Okay.
You seem like you're superhuman, so let's keep the human coming out here. Think about a quote that you live by.
Yeah. Mine would be that she is clothed in strength and dignity. Another is I have a quote, I have a tattoo on my arm actually that I just got recently that says balanced and brave. That I
Mm,
want to show up as a person focused on people and wellness. And I can't show up that way if I don't take care of myself before I do. And then I also don't want to apologize for saying the things that sometimes make folks uncomfortable, to make sure that everybody's voice is heard.
love that.
But
Love it.
with that, I kind of come in with that clothed in strength and dignity, because I think that's the way I want to show up, that I aspire to be as a leader.
Resolute. Morning person or night owl?
Morning.
There it
I
is.
Yeah, I'm exhausted. I sleep well, thank goodness I sleep well, but I do I'm pretty tired by the end of the day.
A decision that you'd make 10 times over again.
I would marry my spouse 10 times over.
Oh.
20, I think, what are we at? 20
Uh,
1998 is when we got
do
married.
the math, folks.
Yeah.
Somebody help us here. Yeah.
Mhm.
How
So a
about
lot of years,
go ahead. Yeah.
a lot of years.
Lefse or lutefisk?
Left so with brown sugar.
There it is. Yeah. You just got to know where we're at if you're enjoying that topic. Best lesson from growing up on a farm.
That hard work doesn't happen without getting your hands dirty. That it takes everybody in a family to make the farm work, and I
Yeah.
think it takes everybody in the college to make the college work. That every person on the farm or in my family or at the college has value in the work that they provide. So those meaningful connections with students sometimes happen with GMW, who works at 7 p.m., a general maintenance worker who's working at 7 p.m., that we all bring value to the mission.
Hey, if you weren't the M State president, what would you be doing today?
Probably some kind of life coaching or fitness coaching. I've taught fitness classes for a really long time. And the reason I do that is because I always say there's two types of people: those that give up before they should, and those that don't give up fast enough. And my goal is to help people figure out which one of those two people they are, so that they find that perfect balance of pushing themselves beyond what they thought they were capable of, but not tipping over the edge.
That is amazing. What would the 1995 first gen student Carrie think of the 2025 college president Carrie?
She would think that's pretty incredible. I think she would probably say that you can dream beyond what you see as possible right now. Interestingly, when I was crowned homecoming queen at M State, my dad was sitting in the and I was a criminal justice major, and nothing to do with colleges. And my dad was sitting in the audience and said, "She'll run this college one day."
A
How do you
prophet,
that you
prophet
know,
up in the
I
cheap
know,
seats.
I know. And he didn't tell me that until years later when I started working there. And it's just a really fun story, because I think it is, when you're in high school, you've got so many things going on, but you don't even dare to dream in the way
Mm.
that my life has turned out.
You've bumped into a lot of leaders over the course of the last 3 decades. Name one of them that you'd model yourself after.
I would name Peggy Kennedy as the first woman who openly told me that she wanted to mentor and support me. Prior the first 20 years of my career, I didn't have any women that I felt like were in a position of bringing me along. I had lots of male leaders that would do that, but I didn't have any women. And she was the first woman that showed me that we can support each other and help each other grow, and not feel like there's only one seat at the top.
Got it. Got it. One word to describe M State's future.
Shiny.
Shiny.
Yes.
Shiny.
Yes.
How about this one?
Really
Okay,
bright.
last question. AI versus your top masterful faculty member in the classroom. Who wins?
The faculty member hands over. I think our faculty information is something we can get from anyone. Belief in ourselves before we see our potential is only an M State faculty member.
Couldn't have said it any better. Yeah. It was like farm kid on speed dial. That was good stuff. Good
Thank
stuff.
you.
Carrie, thank you. This has been a very meaningful exchange. You don't just show up here. You are showing us, I think, what leading at a very high level is all about. Where loyalty is, it is the new commodity for actually building stability across our systems. And
Mhm.
I think what we need more than anything today is more trust and more stability, and that doesn't happen by accident. So thanks for just showing us the way, modeling the way today, boss. Really appreciate it. Any last words for folks out there today?
No, I just think I appreciate the opportunity to share my story. And if there's ways that we can connect and I can support you through a tough time, there are tough times as leaders, and sometimes we doubt the impact we're making. And so if I can remind you, as leaders out there, how incredible you are, please reach out to me
If they
directly.
want to learn more about M State, is it minnesota.edu?
Yes, it is.
There we
And
go.
yep. And then I'm on LinkedIn and all the platforms for connecting as well.
All the places. Folks, that's the show. This has been a good one. You're going to want to replay and send it off to some friends. Peace. Stay well.